Right. The O'Sullivan unemployment parity ratio. A complicated sounding item. It stems from a situation where an economy like New Zealand is in recession and approximately 10,000 extra people are unemployed. 2,000 or 3,000, depending on various reports, of that 10,000 are public servants. Now, I will maintain in this video that that number should increase by another 2,000 or 3,000 public servants, because there needs to be a parity between the tax takers and the tax makers. We are at a point in our economy where we are 50% level of taxation is the real level of tax. For a poor man, pretty well, for a truck driver, for a middle income person, and for a rich person. This is the real tax rate, the GST, the ACC, petrol tax, and so on and so forth, local body rates, anything that goes to government, fines, imposts, fees, charges, and so on. Anything, including regios and warrants of fitness, and liquor taxes and cigarette taxes, and all the taxes, parking fees, parking fines, all those things, all going to some form of government or governance of this country. So what I'm saying here is on the employment front, when you have unemployment, that if you drop 100 workers or 1,000 workers in the private sector, you must also drop 100 workers or 1,000 workers in the public sector. Now, this is not beneficiaries or pensioners or needy persons, but real jobs. Real job lost here, real job lost there. And this is to maintain parity in the economy. This is the only way that fairness is just distributed in recession. Now, the reason for this is explained in a number of my other videos, where I have devised, based on this is a users-based economics, if you like, where you can see how excessive taxes eat up half your money. You receive very little in the way of service for that, no incentive at all to actually do anything. Basically, if I want to do something with my life and in my life, basically I want to keep most of my money myself, thank you very much. Certainly if you're working from below to above in the economy. Now, I've launched a number of little businesses, and the taxes are horrendous, the costs are horrendous, and they will kill any business, and they do, viciously. And of course this suits the powers that be, the Samuelsons and the Bernankes, who rise as the froth on the top, because it keeps down the competition, keeps down the hoi polloi, keeps down the proletariat, keeps down the workers, keeps down the strivers, keeps down the competition for themselves. Therefore their businesses also become inefficient, monopolistic, screwing everybody, ripping everybody off, as the milk companies do, or the one and only monopoly milk company does in this country, where we pay twice as much for our milk. It has no cream in it, whereas in Australia the price for milk is half the price, and there's cream actually remaining in the milk. So the milk is being watered down, the economy is being watered down for us, we're being lied to, we're being ripped off. And our politicians are to blame, our policy makers are to blame, our big monopoly companies are to blame. And they should be severely reduced and along with them the biggest company of all, the New Zealand government. It is by far the biggest player in the market, and so it is fair and right and proper that if 1,000 private sector workers, truck drivers and warehousemen and dockers and shippers and distributors and travellers and salesmen and so on and so forth are working real hard for real customers and eyeballing people and having to perform, then so should the public servants. And we're not seeing that happening whatsoever. You know, hardly any public servants are ever sacked for anything, and all kinds of lying and false situations are continuing in our economy as a result of the lack of oversight. Whereas with businesses, people take their business elsewhere, and the oversight is very particularised and very specific, and we are all doing it all the time. We run the country, the government is to govern the country. It has stepped far, far, far too much into the economy, and it is destroying the economy. Taxes destroy the economy, as my other videos show and demonstrate and prove it. Now, really, the old argument about workers and bosses is totally false. They're actually on the same side, and they should sit down and work together. If the business goes, there are no jobs. But with government, you have artificial inflated jobs. You have 20,000 people working doing nothing, and when it's shrunk back to 3 or 4 or 5,000 people, you find the same function is able to be done. So there were obviously in excess of 10 or 12,000 people, like in the railways, that we had for many, many years. Some people regret this. That is a foolish and ridiculous and unrealistic attitude to take. We cannot continue to subsidise ourselves when it's ridiculous. It's a tautology. It's just an irrational situation. Now, historically, in colonial times, the taxes, the customs duty and so on wouldn't have cost somebody who came under them 10% of their entire income. So 90% of their income was theirs. Imagine what you would do if you had all of your income for yourself, so that every year you could have a kitchen makeover, or the next year you could have a bathroom makeover, have all the flashiest things, and the next year after that begin the construction of your swimming pool. Just as a truck driver or something. Why not? A carport, a garage or something, or a new car every 3 or 4 or 5 years, a brand new car, you pay cash for it. This is what your government is ripping you off of. A life, basically. They're thieves. They have stolen this from you. And people say, oh, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. You're a believing man. Yes, I am indeed. But the Bible also speaks about usury. And usury is what the credit card companies are charging, 23% in my country, 8% in America, but 23% in New Zealand. Now, that's not fair, is it? There's something going on there that's not quite right. Perhaps we should have our own credit card companies in New Zealand and much lower rates. But the government is charging 50%, 19% for income tax, 15% for GST. That's 35% already. And there's still the rates to pay, and the GST on the rates, and so on and so forth, and the petrol tax and so on. It soon gets up to 45, 47, 50%, 51%, 55% for many, many, many more people. Now, my point of view is that when you've got half the country, historically you see, when you had 10%, only about 10% of the people worked for the government. And when you have 20% tax, about 20% of the people will, of course, work or receive government payouts in some form or another. It's just how people are. They will shuffle around until they bring themselves underneath this. So, and the same with 30%, 40%, 50%. Well, so basically you've got 50% of the country paying for the other 50% of the country, and you could say the useful and the useless, if you like. That's not completely true, but you know, there are some trading departments, but you know, they're monopolies, and you know, also. And we need this, you know, broken up. We need either state monopolies broken up or private monopolies broken up, and you know, many different competing businesses. We need real competition, and we need to activate our people. They will live more honest lives, and it will be healthier all round. Now, I've suggested elsewhere that you need to put these things into a constitution, make it permanent, incumbent upon all governments to conform to a maximum of 20% real tax rate. So that you have 10% for income tax on average. So a poor person might pay nothing. Under 10 or 12,000 a year, and they may pay nothing. Why not? Why not say you don't pay anything? You have a free ride. You have all services that are normally available, but you have a free ride to them. You might say, oh, many people would take that up. Well, not if you have a wife, children, and family, and so on. You know, it wouldn't be that attractive. You know, why be cruel? Why be mean? And why rip off people, which is what's happening now? And you know, so for every 1,000 private sector persons that lose their jobs or gain their jobs, you can take on or take off 1,000 real jobs in the public sector. And this is the only fair and proper thing to do. And then everybody's performing to the same standard, under the same strictures, and then we understand each other. If some people are on the gravy train and other people are on the treadmill, that is not fair. You know, that's not right. That cannot continue. And I think a very fierce time is coming in New Zealand, where all these things will be closely and strongly examined by the populace, by the people, who's ripping off whom. And I think the policy makers and the politicians, the lawyers, and the big companies and the oligarchic powers that have been supporting the various parties will need to have a very close look. And I personally want to prosecute every single one of them. And I want to see all of them in jail. All of them, without exception. Thank you. God bless. For incompetence, you know, and defiance of God by a tyrannous, usurious ripping off, stealing from the people, stealing from poor people, stealing from people poorer than themselves. Praise be to God. Thank you.